Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 4, entitled The Atrocities of King Kamsa, Text 28 and 29. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankarma vimudatma karataham iti manyate. That due to bewilderment, covered by Maya, one thinks oneself the doer of activities. Ahankar, the very root of material bondage and suffering, the false ego, gives us this misconception that I am this body, those things in relation to the body are mine, and I am the doer of my activities. The nature of this world is the more we identify with the things we have, the more we become entangled. The illusion of Maya is very simple to understand theoretically, but very difficult to resist if we are entangled. That is, that the illusion that I will be liberated from anxieties, from sufferings, from fear, according to what I can do and what I have. But in actuality, the more we could do and the more we have deepens the bondage and entanglement. If we think that I am the doer, that I am the proprietor, or that I am the enjoyer. Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvalokkamaheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatmamam shantim richchati. If we want peace, Krishna tells us, this is the formula. To understand that Krishna is the proprietor of everything that exists. Nothing is mine. That Krishna is the controller of all controllers. I am ultimately controlled. And that Krishna is the best well-wishing friend and benefactor of everyone. And we trust him. Then we can find actual peace. But to the degree we are infected by the fever of the misconception that I am the proprietor, I am the controller, or I am the benefactor, the ahankar entangles us in such a way that we perpetually suffer, birth after birth after birth. And we become infatuated, even obsessed with these misconceived identities, with the false promise that by pursuing them, they will liberate me. It's so obvious philosophically. But Maya means to cover over, like a veil, where the most obvious things we cannot see. And even if we see, we don't see. Kamsa is such a symbolic example which the Vedic histories have given us. He thought he was the controller. He thought he was the proprietor. He was the prince, the son of Maharaj Ugrasena and Padma, his mother. The riches, the influence that he had were incredible. But he wanted more. He wanted to have a greater sense of security, that I'm not only the prince, the eldest son of my father. Immediately, he couldn't wait. He couldn't wait for his father to naturally get old and go to the forest or die. He wanted it now. Immediately. He had to have these powers. So he put his father in prison. Afraid for his life, he was going to kill his own sister. And ultimately, what he considered to be very merciful, he didn't kill her, but he cast his sister and brother-in-law, who were his loving well-wishers, who wanted nothing but the best for him. He put them in prison. He murdered their babies 6 consecutively in fear. There was no question of peace of mind or happiness any time during all those years. He was in constant fear and constantly plotting and scheming to somehow or other liberate himself from this fear. The problem is he wanted to be the controller, but he wasn't. Nobody's the controller except Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the supreme controller. The Jivatma has a little bit of independence, and therefore we have some degree where we can control things. But ultimately, 24 hours a day, for all eternity, we are controlled. Controlled either by the internal energy, Mahamaya, Yogamaya, or the external energy, Mahamaya. But we're always under the control of Krishna. Frustrated by our inability to find real satisfaction controlling the resources of material existence, sometimes people take to the path of spirituality. Time, Krishna reveals to us in Bhagavad Gita, is his form, which is controlling everything within the manifestation of this cosmos. The sun is in the process of burning out. The oceans will evaporate. The earth will disappear. In our bodies, when a baby starts growing, from the perception of the mother and father, the baby's getting bigger and learning to walk, learning to talk, going to school. But from the perspective of time, the baby's just getting old, that's all. Just at a different stage. From the perception of the soul, we may think that the grandmother is older than the granddaughter. Only this shell. But, unless we're liberated, it's a cycle. In one sense, the grandmother is actually closer in time to being a newborn baby. So from the perspective of looking back, the teenage granddaughter is young. But if you look forward, the grandmother's younger. Because she's about to be a baby. And the teenage daughter's about to be a grandmother. This is how time works. But time is controlling everything and everyone on this physical platform. And on a subtle level, Maya controls us by keeping us attached to something. Attached to our bodies, attached to our family members, attached to our possessions, attached to our prestige, attached to our skills, our intelligence, our abilities. And the attachment of Maya is we think this is mine. But the liberated state is not, according to Rupa Goswami, Yukta Vairagya. The liberated state doesn't necessarily mean to give these things up. It means to give up the misconception that I am this body and these things belong to me. Yes, Kamsa, like everyone in this world, whether we're in the mode of ignorance, passion, or goodness, Kamsa was struggling to hold on to what he had and struggling to enjoy in the process, thinking himself to be the proprietor. Sometimes when we try to give a person a logical understanding of who we are, we ask, do you say I body or do you say my body? Obviously, my body. Nobody says I body. When you go to the doctor and you have a broken arm, you don't say, please take an x-ray of I arm. Say, take my arm. So this is just a logical understanding that I am not the body, but the body is mine. But from a deeper spiritual level, even that's an illusion. Because the body's not yours. Proprietorship means control. If it was your body, your arm wouldn't break. You would just say, arm, don't break. But it breaks. You would say, body, don't get old. Now you could say it now and think, well, I'm still the way I am. But time has its own ways. You're getting old. And so it's neither I body, nor is it actually my body. It's Krishna's body. So when you go to the hospital, please take an X-ray of Krishna's arm. But that brings in another potential illusion. Then you start thinking, I am Krishna, which means I am the controller. And this is what happens. We become frustrated being controlled by a higher power, so we think liberation is to be the supreme controller. To give up this bodily conception, to give up all sense of proprietorship over anything, and realize, Aham Brahmasmi, I am God. But the problem for that is God never comes under illusion. Mamayavam Mayaya, Krishna tells in Gita that I am the controller of this material nature. He's the controller of all controllers. This Maya is his energy. I'm working under his direction. God never falls in Maya. Maya is his instrument. But we, struggling and striving to somehow or other be liberated from suffering, we keep falling into the very traps of the person who's making us suffer. Just like the fish in the water wants to enjoy. And the fisherman knows the weakness of the fish. And I don't know how much you have studied fishermen. I haven't, but I understand at least this much, that a good fisherman knows what fish they want to catch. And they know how to catch them. Just like if you want to catch a shark, you don't put a little fish at the end of a hook this big. But if you want to catch a bass, then you put a fish this big. If you want to catch a shark, you put a bass at the end of it. He's that big. So you know, a fisherman knows this is the kind of fish that this other fish likes to eat. Very expert. So Maya also, according to our particular mode of nature, she knows what it is that will entice us, what it is that will infatuate us. And Maya sends us those things to entangle us, to bewilder us, to keep us covered. Birth after birth, trying to find liberation from suffering through the very things that make us suffer. It's like if you're sick because you take too much milk. Prabhupada said the cure is yogurt, dahi. But if you don't understand that, if you're sick because of too much milk, you keep drinking more and more milk thinking it will make me better. But it will not make us better. It will perpetuate the illness, make it worse and worse and worse. And that is Kamsa. He's so afraid of losing what he has. And please understand, he had a lot to lose. His physical body, each of his arms had the strength of 10,000 elephants. And these are Dwapar Yuga elephants. One Dwapar Yuga elephant probably had the strength of 10,000 Kali Yuga elephants. Can you imagine his strength? He's very powerful. And he didn't get that power by watching television. He got that power through severe austerities. For hundreds and hundreds of years, he earned those powers. He attained those powers. So he worked and suffered intensely to achieve those powers. And now he has a body with all those powers. Can you imagine how much he's attached to that body? He invested so much into it. If you have 50 rupees in a bank account and the bank closes, it's not terrible. But if your whole life savings of 50 crores of rupees are in that bank account and the bank closes, it's a disaster. So Kamsa worked so hard. He invested so much, the major portion of his life, in getting the physical and emotional and mental powers that he had. How much he feared death, that he would lose all that. If a person gets a PhD, or 2 PhDs, if a person gets yogic mystical powers, if a person works hard and gains tremendous wealth and a beautiful home and a wonderful family, the nature of the material world, it only increases our attachment. And along with that attachment comes a greater and greater fear of losing it. Which means fear of death. And death is inevitable for everyone. Whether you're Kamsa or Indra or the Indragopa, the little insect, or the little microscopic personality that's within your cell just swarming around, doesn't know who he is or where he's going. Death comes. Bajahure mana srinanda nandana abhaya charanara vindare. But if we just take shelter of Krishna, we can become fearless. What does it mean to take shelter of Krishna? It's something very practical. It means to actually, in the core of our heart, admit that nothing is mine. Everything is Krishna's. Krishna is the controller of all controllers. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had this consciousness, and he expressed it in his beautiful prayers. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had incredible intelligence. He was a magistrate in the British courts, very, very highly respected, honored, awarded. He had several homes. He had a home in Godrumdweep in Navadweep. He had a home in Calcutta, the Bhakti Bhavan. He had a home in Puri. He had an ancestral home in Orissa. He had at least 10 children. 10 children. It's a lot to be attached to. He was also had such a brilliant capacity to write songs and melodies and prayers, and he had so much fame. The British government adored him. The saints and sadhus and Paramhamsa Babajis adored him. The scholars and academia adored him. The common village people adored him. Everyone adored him. Of course, there's always people who are envious and everything like that. That's part of this world. He had everything. Manaso deho geho jo kichu more. Arpilun tu alpade nanda kishore. Said Krishna, my body, my mind, my property, my family, everything is yours, O Nanda Kishore. It is all your property. My Lord, if you want to protect me, you can protect me. If you want to kill me, I'll gladly be killed. You have every right to do anything you want with me because I am your servant. Nadananda jananna sundarim kabitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishwari bhavatad bhaktirohoiti kitvai. This beautiful song that Bhaktivinoda sang is a very practical, living example of this verse by Lord Chaitanya. I do not want wealth or sensory enjoyment or fame or even liberation. I just want to serve you unconditionally. What does that mean? That everything I have is yours, my Lord. And Srila Prabhupada developed that concept in his prayers, where he said, I am your puppet. If you want to give me the words to speak to attract these people's hearts, then you can give me the words. Otherwise, I cannot do it. I'm just your puppet. Kamsa, he wanted everyone to be his puppets. Whatever he said was the authority. And the more power he got, the more attached and entangled he became. The more property and money he achieved, the more he feared death. Because all this hard work, the fruits, the results would all be taken away. And why? Why did he work so hard to get these mystical yogic powers? To put his own father in prison, to put his own brother and sister in prison, to conquer land after land after land and make alliances with people who actually hated him, just to get more power. It was all to secure the illusion that anything belonged to him. It was based on fear. Fear is the cause of bondage. Bhakti teaches us the opposite. That we accept that everything belongs to Krishna, and what we do it in devotion to Krishna. Therefore, there's no attachment. There's no fear. And there's no suffering. Krishna, this is your body. Whenever you want to put me in another body, I'm yours. It's not a problem. Krishna, this is your family. This is your property. If you want them in somewhere else, or if you want to give them to somebody else, it's yours. I'm your servant. There's one thing that can never be taken away from us. if we are sincere. And that's our desire to serve and our desire to love. That's eternal. It's our nature. Maya could cover it. But this is the fear of a devotee. Srila Prabhupada explained that you boys and girls, now when you're 70 years old, if you're 60, you're a boy or a girl. I know my father, he's in his late 80s now. And my godbrother, Sham Sundar, he's in his late 60s. And my father and Sham Sundar Prabhu are very, very close friends, kind of best of friends. And when my father, when he talks about Sham Sundar, he says, that nice boy. Calls him a nice boy. Or sometimes when he calls him the young man. He's a grandfather. Yes, Shamsundar Prabhu is a grandfather. And compared to all of you, he's really an old man. But compared to my father, he's a young boy. So we see things in a very relative way. That's the nature of this world. A devotee sees everything relative to Krishna. This body, this mind, this everything. If we just recognize that it's Krishna's property, then there's no fear. No matter how much we try to control, it just never works. It cannot work. There's laws of gravity that what goes up must come down. It's a law. Whether you believe it or don't believe it, however much you fight against it, it's the law. Yes? There's the laws of karma. For every action there is an equal corresponding reaction. You can't escape it. Not on the material level. And it's a law of nature that whatever we have will be taken away soon. Our body, our family, our wealth, our property, our intellect, our skills, everything. And people become so attached, they battle, they wage war against time, trying to keep what they have, keep their youth, keep their health, keep their wealth. But you can't win. You have to be defeated because it's the law of this land. But Krishna comes again and again and again, yada yada hi dharmasya, to remind us that you are liberated, you are free, you are full of bliss, if you just understand what is really yours. What is really yours is the bhakti, the prem, the love of your heart. That is eternally what God has given us. And nothing can take that away. But if it is covered, we forget it. And in that forgetfulness, we try to substitute these perishable illusions for the real treasure of the nature of the Atma, or the soul. Kamsa the sufferings that he inflicted upon his sister, they did nothing against him, ever. She never criticized him. She never spread rumors against him. She never wanted anything. She was always a loving, well-wishing sister. And he put her in chains. And worse than that, for her, she put her husband, who she loved so much, in chains. Kept them in an underground prison cell. And murdered that which was most dear to her, her babies. Everyone who is a mother or father understands the attachment of a newborn child. It's like a little miracle that's just come out of your body. There's a natural, irresistible quality to that baby for the mother and child. Kamsa slaughtered them in their presence. This went on for at least 8 years. And when Yogamaya came, out of his own hand when he was trying to kill the 8th child, she told him, "You're a fool. Why are you making such suffering for your sister? The child that is meant to kill you has already been born somewhere else." Kamsa had a temporary awakening that he's not the controller. He engaged in such treacherous sins to protect himself, thinking he could control his destiny from the suffering. But now he realized that no matter what he tried, it was out of his control. Kamsa, for the first time, became a little humble because he had a striking realization: it's out of my control. As long as he thought things were under his control, he continued his nefarious, murderous deeds. And he didn't even consider anything else. He was obsessed. He was infatuated. He was attached. The inertia of the way Maya works in this world is when you're riding on that wave of lust or anger or envy or greed, your whole life is moved by that wave. Kamsa wasn't thinking, should I be doing this or not? Should I keep my sister in jail or not? That fear was so much, he was just being pushed forward, controlled, like a puppet of the ego. But now, the strings were cut, and that puppet fell to the ground. And Kamsa realized all those murders, all those killings, and I could not fulfill my purpose. And then he did something which was quite extraordinary. He fell at Devaki's feet and begged forgiveness. And he cried because he felt so regretful and guilty for what he had done. Amazingly, Devaki and Vasudev, from their heart of hearts, completely forgave him. It wasn't a show. It wasn't that they were forgiving him so that their words would always be in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It was from their hearts. That's why their words are in the Srimad Bhagavatam. They forgave him. They showed love for him. They showed sympathy for him. And they even agreed with this philosophy that he said. He begged forgiveness and he cried and he said, but actually I wasn't the doer. It was all providence, destiny. And they said, yes, it was destiny. You're forgiven. But they said something else which was very powerful. These are the words of Devaki. O great personality, Kamsa. She calls him Mahabhaga. Only by the influence of ignorance does one accept the material body and bodily ego. What you have said about this philosophy is correct. Persons in the bodily concept of life, lacking self-realization, differentiate in terms of this is mine and this belongs to another. What is being said here is very interesting because it's the root of envy. This is mine and this belongs to another. As long as we're thinking in this mentality, if we have more than another, we become proud, arrogant. And if we have less than another, we are prone to envy. And we know what arrogance and envy can do to one's consciousness. They burn. So many examples. Duryodhana, he was also a prince with so much. But he was envious. He was especially envious of Bhima. And it's interesting, because Bhima wasn't even going to be the king. He was no competition in that perspective. Yudhisthira was going to be the king. The throne actually belonged to Yudhisthira Maharaj. So yes, Duryodhana envied Yudhisthira, but even more to Bhima. Because everything Duryodhana tried to do, Bhima was better. This was terrible. Duryodhana learned from Balaram how to fight with the club. But Bhima was better. And Duryodhana, he was a Kshatriya, he liked to fight. But Bhima was stronger. I guess Duryodhana liked to eat. But Bhima could eat more and not get indigestion. Srila Prabhupada said we should eat what we need. He quotes Krishna in Gita, we should not eat too much or eat too little. He said, if you can do incredible things and not get sick, then you can eat as much as Bhima. But if you can't use that food with the strength of Bhima, Bhima didn't take big feasts and go to sleep. Bhima ate what dozens of people could eat. But then he would go out and do seva. Incredible, with such strength and power. So in every way, Bhima was just very accomplished. Duryodhana could not tolerate it. He could not tolerate anybody who had more or could do more than him. He lived in fear. He burned with envy. And envy is such a thing that it covers us over so thoroughly that we cannot even recognize who are our well-wishers. Duryodhana, Vidura, he insulted him. He kicked him out of his home. Because he thought Vidura was on the side of the people he envied. So we can see how thoroughly envy can program us to see the whole world. And anything that's connected directly or indirectly to the object of our envy becomes a threat to us. And envy is such a powerful covering that we can actually believe in the illusions and justifications that we make. If someone did a psychological study of Duryodhana, I don't think they would come to the conclusion that he felt that he was an envious liar who was cruel and duplicitous. In his own mind, I'm sure this study would find that he really believed what he was thinking. He really believed that everything should be his, although there was no logic to it. But he created a logic. He really believed that Yudhisthira was evil. And the more good Yudhisthira was, the more it was evil. Because the more good things that Yudhisthira did, the more it exposed him as being inferior. And he didn't believe he was inferior. Really an incredible personality, Duryodhana, in the way he exposes us. He went to the forest to totally insult the Pandavas. They were in exile. They had lost everything. Yudhisthira usurped literally everything that they had. And they were living as hermits in the jungle. But it wasn't enough. He went to where they were with a royal procession just to cause them pain and misery and show the world the contrast between him and Yudhisthira. He came with a royal procession to where the Pandavas were, just to make them suffer. Just to show who you are and who I am. Just to show the world what I have achieved. And look, by my power, they're just living like hermits. Such ego, such cruelty. He wasn't satisfied with just exiling them. He wanted to utilize that situation to make them suffer more and more and more. And ultimately, he wanted to murder them. And when that Gandharva fought against Duryodhana and defeated his armies, and Duryodhana was about to be finished, Yudhisthira Maharaj came and fought for him. He defeated the Gandharva. He had Arjuna and Bhima, Nakula, Sahadev. When